Here are 5 of the funniest science experiments ever awarded the Ig Nobel Prize. Number 5 is from this year when they put a crocodile in a helium chamber to find out if it would change its voice, because that doesn't happen to every animal. Turns out it did, and it changed how other crocodiles perceived them. Number 4 is when scientists realized that cows who have names produce 5% more milk, especially if they're named between 6 and 15 months of age when they need the most attention. Number 3 is from 2008 when they had an entire study showing that sword swallowing is dangerous. Apparently you have to repress your gag reflex and then flip the epiglottis, then stop the muscles from contracting, nudge the heart to the left, and not have your stomach retch. 2, scientists have always wondered why wombats have square poop. It was only in 2019 that they concluded that it's because of their irregular intestine shape. And number 1 is when a scientist investigated where the most painful place to have a bee sting you is by getting himself stung all over his body. Turns out it's the nostril, upper lip, and penis shaft.
Fake news is getting even crazier.
A frozen dragon was just discovered in Canada. A new species of flying creature that was longer than 30 feet.
Giant frozen dragon is actually a new species of pterosaur that was discovered in 2019, not 2020, and it is also not 33 feet long. According to National Geographic, it had a wingspan of about 16 feet.
Doctors then pulled out a 4-foot snake out of her mouth that was still alive.
That's biologically impossible because your esophagus collapses, you'd have a gag reflex, and you have a bunch of stomach acid, which would definitely kill a snake if it did somehow get past all that other stuff and get inside of you. Number 2, we're not even sure if this video is real because it's from Russia. Number 3, I actually looked at what herpetologists said, and they said it's definitely not a snake, and if it's real, it's most likely a type of roundworm parasite.
The oldest sperm sample ever found. The sperm was preserved in amber and
I actually did a video on this, but the sperm is not from a dinosaur as the picture insinuates. It's actually from these really tiny crustacean-like creatures, but it's definitely less exciting than dinosaurs being reawakened.
I saw a lot of comments to put a phone case inside of acetone, so that's what today's experiment's going to be. Let's get all the ingredients ready, and I guess we'll use this phone case. Let's drop it inside. What do you think's gonna happen? You think it's gonna turn to slime? Check back soon for an update.
It is time to check the drains again. So in this first drain, it doesn't seem like much. There's a lot of silt covering the drain. But if you look very closely, there is a pair of antennae, which means that there is a crab buried beneath the silt. And that's exactly what we found. We actually found a female green crab that had an egg mass. So this girl had a pretty large spongy egg mass, and we put her into the crab collection so that we could feed her and protect her. And then in the next drain, we found a little rock crab. This was a little boy, and we put him into the crab collection as well. And then we found a little green sea urchin, which also got put into the collection.
Hold on, you've got stars in your eyes, so let's paint the sky.
I poured in 10 liquids in the cup all together without mixing to make a density tower. Honey has more dense in the bottom. And if I pour in water, it will take 5 minutes to mix it back all together. I pour in olive oil, then rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol is less dense, so I made a density tower.
Angry owl.
This is what happens when you pour liquid nitrogen on a balloon. The gas inside the balloon turns into liquid and solid, and it shrinks. When you take it out, the liquid turns back into gas, and the balloon grows.
I have just discovered the most underrated form of humor on Earth. Remember that guy Pythagoras whose theorem you hated doing in the 7th grade? He thought that by using a system of mirrors and human blood, you could write on the moon. He also believed that beans contained the souls of the dead. William Thomson, the guy accredited with the absolute temperature scale, might have been the most head-ass scientist to have ever lived. He thought that X-rays were a hoax and flying was impossible. He was quoted as saying the Aeronautical Society will attempt to make flying machines for the next 30 to 40 years and then they'll eventually give up. As if that wasn't head-ass enough, he went on to claim that there was nothing new to be discovered in physics before we even knew what an atom was. Not even 5 years after that, Einstein released his theory of relativity. Isaac Newton invented calculus at the age of 23 and then spent the rest of his life trying to use the Bible to predict the future and looking for dragons in the Swiss Alps. William Herschel, the guy who discovered Uranus, thought that there were aliens with massive heads living on the surface of the sun. Remember those two guys who discovered the structure of DNA? Well, Watson thought that we were put here by aliens and Crick was a fucking racist. Marcel Vogel was an essential part in creating the modern hard drive, but he also believed that you could alter the shapes of crystals and plants with your mind. Kerry Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test, denied that HIV caused AIDS, but if that wasn't crazy enough, he also claimed to have an encounter with a glowing alien raccoon. But by far my favorite theory on this list goes to Leo Allatius. After studying for decades at the Library of the Vatican, he claimed that when Jesus died, his foreskin ascended into the heavens and became the rings of Saturn. You can't make this shit up.